Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Masters in Marketing. I am super delighted to have on somebody today that I've actually been working with for a number of years now. I think it actually has been a number of
Yeah,
years. Jesus, look at that.
yeah.
And this person now that Luis is not just this person, Luis Sousa, who's a buddy of mine as well. In the meantime, I would say, if I'm allowed to call you a buddy, Luis,
Of
um,
course, man.
is somebody that I've worked very close with over a number of years. But in the meantime, has actually become quite the influencer in the AI space. Right, he's going to be blushing here and laughing at me a little bit when I call him an influencer in the AI space, but it is the truth. He's himself and his brother Rui, who is also, by the way, his twin brother. So if you see Luis and Rui in the same room, they're gonna scream a little bit because they just look like the same person. But that's a different topic. Himself and Rui have started the AI Break newsletter, which has over 80,000 subscribers, and he started that like a year ago and managed to get up with
Mhm.
like 80,000 subscribers within the past year. And I know that they do quite a lot of culling on that email list as well to make sure they're getting rid of inactive stuff. So it's actually the gross number of subscribers is probably much higher than that 80K, I would imagine, over the past year. On top of that, Luis is also quite the influencer over in Portugal as well. Luis is based, he's got over 260,000 followers on TikTok. So also, not just in the AI space, but also in other spaces as well. Luis is also the influencer. And then on top of that, he also, alongside Rui, they both run an agency called Scale It, which is focused on Google Ads and performance marketing. On top of that, with the AI piece, Scale It are also um, or the AI break, I would call it now, are also
Mm.
focused on helping companies get their AI tools set in order, making sure that workflows are built between different tools and making sure that they're making the most use out of AI. But we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But Luis, great to have you, mate.
Great, man, and thank you for the intro. It was quite an intro. Not, not expecting that, but thank you, man.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So that's what I specialize in. Everything else is going to go downhill from here, man. The intros is where I really do
It's
the
okay.
best work.
It's already worth it, man.
So look, tell me a bit about the AI break. Give me a little insight
Mm.
into it.
Yeah, definitely. So as you mentioned, like my brother and I started that newsletter like a year ago. To be honest, I think everybody at home was tired of us talking about ChatGPT and AI and stuff. So we kind of decided, let's start writing. We were into news and tools. We were kind of testing that stuff for ourselves as well. That's I think that's how it started. Which is, as you mentioned, we have our own performance marketing agency, and we kind of start using AI to help us and automations to help us in our day to day. And we start writing about it. And I think was also we were at the beginning of AI, or was quite exploding last year, and we managed to start growing pretty fast. The newsletter, and something that started as a hobby, we start getting good numbers. People start reaching out to us and reading it, and then we start getting the first sponsors, and I think that's also what led to exponential growth. I think especially last year, especially for 6 7 months, was the fact that we start getting some revenue that we could use to scale. And as having the background in paid ads and paid advertisement, that's where we also started growing quite fast. Was using that revenue we started doing in the beginning, even if it was little, to start scaling the newsletter quite fast. And as you mentioned, as we do, and we like to do it, and do really try to do it the best we can, which is clean the newsletter the best we can to get like really most engaged people there, and people that are interested in AI. And we try to make it as cleanest and as engaging as possible. But as you know, now there's hundreds of newsletters in AI. It's kind of getting more and more crowded, but we still run it. It's great for us because it opens us a lot of other doors, and even if we had no subscribers, we would still write it about it because we really like the space, and it's something we are doing as well in our business anyway. So we kind of doing what we preach, I guess. But yeah, it's been an interesting 1 year journey, it's kind of opened up stuff that we're not expecting, and is now actually proper part of the business. I guess, for us, and we are trying to scale it. Is we don't have everything figured out, but it's becoming really interesting. The newsletter space and kind of creating a community around AI. But yeah, it's been quite surprisingly, good
And
for the past year.
the people that are coming to you then, like, because I guess there's a lot of people reaching out about, okay, how can I best use an AI tool set and
Hmm.
marketing, etc. Right? Do people really have any clue? Like people are like talking about ChatGPT and stuff, and I think that's just the tip
Hmm.
of the iceberg, really, right? There are so
Hmm.
many tools and tech out there at the moment that marketers could get their hands on and get using, but are people really using AI yet, would you say, effectively?
I think majority of people, at least that come to us and talk, they at least tried something, right? They tried at least ChatGPT and all the things, and they use it. But I think maybe 8 out of 10 don't know how or where to use it in or how to apply it in their business. I think it was rare the company I spoke with that told us like it is exactly the process I want to automate. And I know I need to do this. I don't know how, but I know I need to do this and this and this, and this process is going to be automated. I think majority of people use it a little bit, and they came in and they think AI going to fix all their problems. So basically, going to reduce all their costs, increase all their revenue, and and going to basically automate all their manual tasks for them, and they need to click a button and that's it, right? And they're gonna do everything for them. And I think that expectation gap is where I think there's still a big gap of people not understanding what can it really do and what it cannot do. At
Mm,
least now, maybe one
mm,
day we'll do it, but at least right now it doesn't do that. Like it can help the process instead of you spending X amount of hours, for example, in content creation, you can spend one, but you're not going to do the stuff for you 100%, or at least at this stage of the AI. You shouldn't, maybe. But yeah, I think it's funny. It's funny to see. And I think another interesting thing about it is that every person I speak with has like really unique cases in their mind to fix their business. It's not like a one specific problem everybody has and
mm,
teach me how to use AI. No, everybody has like, I have this really specific thing in my business. I have no idea, but I know AI is going to solve me. So how can you help? What tool can I use? And I say, it's funny. But a lot of the times, to be honest with you, I also feel that a lot of the times AI can be helping those businesses. People can be using more of that to help, efficiency, productivity. But they just don't know because there's so much things out there, and also there's like they keep changing all the time. So I have companies that probably came and I spoke with like 6 months ago that you couldn't do something that you can do now. And I think that's keeping that up to date and keep testing is, I think, the challenge right now for a lot of businesses. It's just they try ChatGPT and that's it. And there's so much beyond ChatGPT at the moment. But still also early days, which is that's the fun part. It's still early days, right? It's still not just click a button and everything is solved. But I think companies that spend the time, or people that spend the time at least testing and learning, will get ahead. Sure.
yeah, I mean, we've only just begun, right? Like, if you think about the how quickly like things have progressed just since the advent of ChatGPT, right? That's when the real
Hmm.
explosion first happened. What are we like? Are we even? Is it 2 years even? No, it's like a year and a
Hmm.
half since ChatGPT came out, right?
It's 2 years.
February,
Was November
March.
November
Ah,
2022
oh,
that
there
was
we go.
kind of open to public a bit
So we're
more.
like
Yeah.
22 months, right? We're 22 months into ChatGPT being open to the public, right? And that was like an
Yeah.
explosion. And like if you if you think back to some of the bigger technological booms that we've experienced in our lifetime, let's
Hmm.
go on mobile phones, right? So going
Yeah.
from just old school cellular phones. So I remember my first phone that I got from my parents when I was I want to say 14 or maybe a little bit younger. They got it for me because I was going away with school and they wanted to be able to contact me and they wanted me to be able to contact them. That could be classified as a lethal weapon that I found that they get. It was a
Yeah.
brick. It was a brick with
I
an
remember
aerial
this.
that you pulled out, like an aerial that you pulled out. It had a proper weight to it. It was like this thing,
Yeah, man.
Fast
Yeah, I
forward, fast
remember.
forward, fast forward 20 years later. and
Yeah.
we've got the first iPhone. Fast forward
Mm,
3 years later, you've got like the next generation of iPhones, and like fast
yeah.
forward another couple of years later, you've got a completely different version of smartphone.
Yeah.
Smartphones that have screens that you're able to fold, and cameras that are better than any camera that
Camera.
you can
Yeah.
like any camera that you can possibly buy in a shop anywhere that's going to cost you thousands of
Mm,
euros. You have it all in your pocket now, right? Which we never
yeah.
would have dreamed of, right? So we go from playing Snake on Nokia 3210s to having
Yeah.
like proper, like the world in our pocket, right? In a very short space of time. And I think we're in
It's
the
true,
same
man.
situation with ChatGPT and with AI just in general. Not with ChatGPT, but just AI in general, man. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And to be honest, I even think it's a lot faster. Like the AI progression and evolution. You mentioned like few years, right? Like the X amount of years for the iPhone and like cameras getting better, like gradually. And if you look at everybody, especially in that space, what they say is like the evolution is like instead of years, it's been in months. Look at like image creation for Midjourney. There was this image around where version 0 versus the version 6 that they have in 6 months or 7 months, it's insane, right? The quality of AI image generation, it's insane, and I think it's just progressing way fast. Look at what ChatGPT one or normal version could do versus now. So I think, and I think it's evolving even faster and faster. The better the models get, and the better the infrastructures get, and kind of efficiencies around energy and cost and stuff. I think we'll get more and more. I think will be like yeah. I think it's probably the biggest revolution when ever we see as humans, but it's still in the beginning, and I think will be yeah. We'll get bigger and bigger, but it's quite impressive. The evolution in the last six
Speaking
months.
of impressive, I'm going to jump in here. Speaking of impressive, what's the most impressive AI tool that you've seen?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. This it's hard to say. It depends on what you want to do. I think
Or use case. Let's go use case rather than tool. What's been the most impressive use
the
case that you've seen?
I think just the fact that you can automated stuff using AI and reasoning that you couldn't do before, like entire processes from onboarding, let's say, and you can use AI in the middle to do the reasoning for you and get you the output. All that is already incredible, right? Doing research for you, drafting stuff, in terms of content that you can, that is 80% there is something that you take you hours to do. So I think on that note, for sure, it is impressive. I do feel like the video stuff that is coming up is going to be impressive, like the avatars and AI being able to clone yourself. It's starting to get scary good, um, and I don't think we are there yet, but I think it's getting there, and I think that's quite something you ever like dream of, right? But I think yeah, I think like just even the language models are the stuff you can do now that you couldn't do 2 years ago. It's impressive, but there's cool stuff, right? Like cool tools out there like Runaway, even Kling AI from video all the way to Flux now, the new stuff like the new competitor of Midjourney, which gives you really realistic images that you can some of them you can't really even distinguish, and that's of course for the normal, I guess, for normal people, on normal eye, it's quite impressive and scary because it can be used for good, but like in a lot of stuff that people can use it. So it's interesting to see. But I think that the next step that I'm curious to see is like how people use it AI on their day to day. Right? We just saw Meta, like Mark Zuckerberg, announcing the new glasses yesterday with AI. We're gonna have Apple Intelligence to come into Siri in a couple of months. With iOS 18.1. So I think when people start using it, like you don't even realize it's AI anymore and just part of the day. But I don't know, man. You tell me as well. Like, what is the most impressive stuff you have seen or
I
have
don't know,
used so
man.
far?
So like my experience with AI up until this point is, I wouldn't say limited, but I've used it. So I've used a fair bit of ChatGPT, right, and it saved me a
Mm.
lot of time. Like you can't fully trust what's given out of it, right, but it
Well,
can at least in the ideation phase, it can be very helpful for, as you mentioned, in research, right? So it can compile a
Mm,
huge amount of information for you very, very quickly. So I'll give you an example.
mm,
Like if I needed to pull a press release about a specific thing, that something has happened with a company that I'm working with, I would get that. I'd give a couple of prompts into ChatGPT, and then ask it to basically form a press release for me, and then
mm,
also give like a CTA, which it would have think it would be a fitting CTA, and I'd take that away, and then I'd work it up a little bit, or somebody on the team would put a bit. It's let's call a spade here. I'm not working it any further than there, but I'd hand it, I'd
yeah,
hand it over because the team are looking at this, being like, he's a liar, he's a
yeah,
filthy liar. He didn't do anything with it. He just handed it to us, you know. So I'd give
yeah,
it over to the team, like, but it would already be for me as a team lead or a CMO. It makes it a lot easier for me to be able to scope my ideas and hand it over to the team
mm,
already, like 3/4 of the way baked, you know,
yeah,
without me having to start from scratch. Like something like that before would take me hours to pull together, but now it takes me like
mm,
seconds, like really seconds to do, right?
yeah,
So that's an interesting one. The images thing, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm cheap, you know, and I haven't been paying for the access to licenses for these tools. But I give you
yeah,
an example. HubSpot have a an AI feature in
mm,
their image library nowadays, right? Where you're either able to buy stock imagery or you're able to generate AI images.
yeah,
Now I am paying for HubSpot, right? And HubSpot's not cheap. Um, but like I needed I wanted to play around with it a little bit, and I needed an image for an email a couple of weeks ago, and it was an image for we were
mm,
sending out an invite email, and I was giving input to the team in terms of what I'd want to see in there, and I just wanted to create an image which basically showed we're going to be serving food, right? It just showed like a buffet at an event, and the
yeah,
images that they pulled out were wild, like just like I was like prompt was like business event
yeah,
buffet, like, but you're talking like just it was weird. You know, like
yeah,
it was like the original version where you've seen maybe the first images that came out with people with like six fingers, that type of thing, you know. It was real like that,
yeah,
and just real like it just seemed like a distorted version of reality. Probably the best
mm,
way to put it, you know. So like I
yeah,
played around in that perspective, but I still, when it comes to the image side of things, let's see where it goes. I feel like that's not quite there yet. But
mhm.
like what's been really helpful is the large language models, right? That's been the no
Yeah,
brainer
it's
thing for me. And
the text outputs, right?
yeah,
I think that's, well, we are evolving to the multimodal, right? Like image view, video view, even with your phone. So I think it'll get better and better. I agree with you. Like a lot of the models are not there yet, and even the best ones, they still depends on use case per use case. I do feel like the new model, which was the Flux one, came in, and now it's, you know, there is a lot of companies integrating that model. Before it was like almost like, I would say Mid-Journey was kind of the king of it,
mm,
but I think now with these new models and this competition, people integrate. If you go, for example, to people, I don't know if they know this, but like with Grok, like the one from X, from Twitter, the AI, their image generation is based with Flux. So actually, that's where I generate my images right now. Again, not perfect, no, but a lot better quality than like DALL-E from
mm,
ChatGPT or Bing Chat. So I think they will get to a point where you'll be able to, you know, to use them and even edit them directly. I think it's something that is also missing on all these tools, like proper editing. Now Photoshop is adding some stuff on the Adobe Firefly, but I think we'll get to a point where a few of the big ones will win. We'll get like really good models,
yeah,
and everybody gonna start using them. But I think now is the fun part, you know, which is if you manage to find good stuff, right, in all this sea of tools and AI, and you can use it on your work or for you, you'll be ahead, right? So I think I heard some people saying, I'm gonna wait. You know, I'm not there yet. I don't want to test all this stuff. It's too complicated. And I always say, like, you know, don't like test, don't do it. Even if it's too much, just choose a few, test, like try to apply to your day to day. You know, like how you use them. Try to look at like stuff that you're doing that could be useful, stuff that you do manually, stuff that takes you time, and just start using those tools, because I think it'll be a useful skill set. You were even talking about prompting and how to use them. I think that would be the skill, is how do you use the tools to get the most out of it. That would be kind of the skill that people will have to learn and relearn to get the most out of it. But I think we're still early days, but it's been,
I might
fun
be
days.
showing my age here a little bit, but when you're talking about prompts there and how best to get the most how best to get the most out of the tools, right, with a prompt.
Mm.
When I first started uni, I'm not going to tell you when it was, but when I first started uni, the my I had a session on how best to use search engines.
Mm.
So it was like this is how you ask a search engine to give you the best results. So
Yeah.
we had like a class on how to Google to get the best results, right?
Nice.
So like if I think back, because this always stuck out in my mind, I was like, Jesus Christ, why did we need like a Google workshop? Like this was
Yeah.
again showing my age a little bit. It was that we had a teacher come in and sit down with us and be like, this is how you use Google, right? And this is how you get what you're looking for,
Yeah.
and like it's the same now with ChatGPT, right? With prompts and being able to get the most out of those prompts, getting what you need from those prompts, being very specific in your prompting and so on.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you, mate, before we finish up.
Yeah.
There's been some news this week, and actually one of the guys in my team mentioned it to me about the energy needed to
Mm.
fuel AI is insane, right? It's
Yeah.
like for every prompt, like I don't know, there's a bottle of water needed or something crazy, right?
Mm.
So has this come across your desk at all? Like has the whole social responsibility of AI, let's say?
Yeah, I think, well, people are, I think, aware of it at like a more top level scale. I'm not really into the details. If you ask me how much is about what I know is like it's getting more and more efficient, right? The better the models, the cost savings and all that stuff. Of course, it takes a lot of energy to run because these models are also getting bigger, right? And better and more complex. So you need more, computing power and all those things. But I think they're also, we're also, it's not just the software that is evolving, right? The hardware is also evolving. So I think in order for these models and for AI to keep growing and improving, they will have to improve that side as well, right?
Mm.
Otherwise, that will be one of the limitations, right? Will be the capacity of computing for to run these models. So yes, I think right now it is a big problem. It takes a lot of energy, and it's not socially again and environmentally is not great. And I don't think people talk a lot about it. There's not a lot of
Mm.
information because I don't think also there is an interest on that sense,
No,
because all the companies are betting billions of dollars in AI. But at the same time, I think that it will get better. The AdWords get better. We see an evolution in cost and efficiency since they started. And again, I'm not an expert on that, but I think they and these companies, in order to keep evolving and getting better at these, and as they say, one day we'll see if we get to AGI or not. But in order to get there, I think they will have to continue improving. Like NVIDIA is doing a lot of work on those computing processors, and now the other companies are picking up. But I think they will have no option to keep
mm.
improving that side as well. Now, how much will impact the world while doing that pursue? Don't know, but it's a good question, and I also feel that not just on that, but also privacy, right? It is a big issue, a big thing. Talk about privacy and how those models are learning, etc. And that's why I think you see in Europe there's a lot more stance than, or
Yeah.
more carefully. But at the same time, to be honest with you, that's why in Europe we're not getting a lot of the stuff, right? Meta AI is not here. The new voice system from OpenAI is not here. So I think it needs to be a balance. I think there still needs to be responsibility, and people need to look at it, and governments and stuff. But at the same time, we also need to, I don't think we can escape from it. Like there is like, I don't think
Definitely
we
not.
will, like, AI
Definitely
will
not.
stop tomorrow. I don't think is that the case. So
No.
I think we have to embrace it, but of course in a responsible way. So But I think it's a big topic, man. It's a big debate. I'm not into it much. I'm more the testing guy, testing the stuff. But I probably gonna look more,
Yeah.
around it.
So if nobody else is talking about it, you could be the leading voice on the matter. You
I
could.
can, man. I usually don't get involved, in politics and all that stuff. It's not my thing, but I'm definitely curious, I like to know how things run, right? And what needs to be done to evolve and technology wise, how can you keep evolving? So it's interesting for me on that sense. Also privacy, of course, right? Like, because, it is what it is, right? Like, but were we before AI? Was there any privacy as well? With Google and all those big companies
Yeah, really, what is privacy? To
yeah,
define privacy, to
yeah.
what we.
I think for
It's
me it's
hard.
more just the dangers of using AI to do, like, to scams and worms and like that. The
Yeah,
cybercrime is
yeah,
growing a lot,
yeah.
so
Fully
I
agree. Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think that's the problem. And if you think about it with AI, we're not there yet, but I think, which is the beauty, but also the problem, which is anyone can build stuff or will be able to build stuff, which was a big entry point or big gap, right? You need to be technology savvy, I guess, or knowing how to code to
Mm,
build apps and build application stuff. And I think AI is opening the world for everybody that has an idea and it is
mm,
creative. And I'm not a
mm.
coder, but I can get AI to do for me. And on that sense, it's great on one side for people to innovate, but it's also opens doors to other things. So
Yeah.
that's why I think there needs to be definitely regulations around it. But I think Europe needs to pick up, man. If you look at the top, I think they did. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying this wrong, but they look at like the top 10 companies in AI. I don't think there was no European company there. Or there's one, I think, in the top 10. I don't think there was any in the top 10. It
Not
was like,
massively surprised. Not massively surprised at that, given the fact that we need to be super careful with data privacy and so on. Like that's as you mentioned
yeah.
just a couple of minutes ago. Like a lot of the AI products are not available in Europe because of the privacy laws. I mean, the privacy laws are there for good reason, but I think they need to be revisited time and time and time again to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that Europe is maybe not missing out. But that's a that's a topic of discussion for another time, another day, because we can go on about this for
I
years.
know, man.
And we're right on time, man. So like, I
I
think
know.
we'll finish out on that. But hey, where can people find you, Luis?
So they can, visit the newsletter. So the AI Break newsletter, you can just search on it. We are on Substack, but if you look at the AI Break, you can find it. You can also find me. So you have Sousa Brothers on Twitter, and we also launched our Sousa Brothers YouTube channel where we are starting to teach people how to use AI and automation. So if people want to learn, we are starting to put some content out. And on top of that, if people wanna, connect on LinkedIn, feel free to go there. I'm sure if you post it there, I will comment. But yeah, you can also find me on LinkedIn directly. That's where
The
I'm living now more and
Sousa
more.
Brothers.
I
The
like I
Sousa
like LinkedIn
Brothers.
now. Yeah,
You like
you
LinkedIn now?
can.
Good, man.
Yeah, man, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Louise. It's been, as always, a great pleasure. And look, we'll make sure that everything is shared. And if anybody has any questions for Louise, anything around AI or whatever, please feel free to reach out. And also, please follow the newsletter. How often do you send out a newsletter, Louise? Once a
We
week?
send three times a week, so Mondays,
Three
Wednesdays,
times
and
a week.
Fridays every
Excellent.
week.
We'll put the link to how you can sign up to that in the description of this episode. Louise, thanks a million, mate. It's been great having you on.
Thanks, man. Have a great day.
Cheers, guys. This has been another episode of Masters of Marketing. Tune in again next week for more great content. Luis, thanks a million, mate. Take it easy.
Thanks, mate. Take it easy.